So you probably were looking at this clip I just showed you and said, wait, what the heck did I just watch? What game is this? And for anyone who is an anime head can instantly say it is a Gundam game, but you probably don't recall ever seeing a commercial for this or seeing a friend playing it or anything like that. And this is because this beautiful game was never released outside of Japan. Yeah, I know, just add another one to the list of unreleased amazing Japanese games. This Gundam game was released for the PS3 in 2012 and is one of the only ways you can play this game outside of Japan, and in order to do so, you essentially need to emulate it. I'm just going to be straightforward. Now, before you ask, I will not show you how to emulate this game or how to find this game. This is where your good friend Google comes to play, so I wish you very well with that. What I am here to do is to bring awareness to this series, so hopefully with enough hype, Japan will decide to port this to consoles for global users or whichever region you are currently in. So if you also want this to happen, please watch this video to the end and let's do our best to support this movement as much as we can. Subscribe to the channel as well. I will be making more videos like this in the future if you guys like them, as well as probably start playing the Blue Protocol game whenever it releases. So if you enjoy videos on anime type of games, this is the channel for you. But without further ado, so if you were a 90s kid in Canada, you would remember YTV showcasing animes on their Friday anime block at around 7 p.m. And this was one of the first times we were seeing anime on television in Canada. Now, of course, we did have animes before this, such as Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Metabots, Beyblades, etc. But those were introduced to us as cartoons, so we never knew what an anime was in the traditional sense until YTV started to air shows like Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, which was more so on Fox, but you get what I mean, Death Note, Ghost in the Shell, Detective Conan, Full Metal Alchemist. Oh my gosh, I'm getting like a nostalgic feeling right now as I'm reading this. I love you, YTV. Thank you for making my childhood. But amongst these amazing titles was a show called Mobile Suit Gundams, specifically Gundam Wing for me at least. Gundam Wing was the first title that I was introduced to, and this show was essentially about war, military, politics, and overall dealing with the conflict of a post-apocalyptic Earth that had a huge portion of humanity move to live out in space on these man-made built colonies, and the remaining human society on Earth and the colonies would constantly be at war, and regular human lives were constantly being affected by this, just like we see in our everyday life. And they were using guns, knives, bombs, the usual stuff that you would see in war, but the difference in this show was they were also manning mobile robot suits of armor known as Gundam, which not all of these mobile suits were considered Gundams if we're being specific, but just to keep everything simple, we're just going to call them all Gundams. But the cool looking ones are the real Gundams, just remember that. And they would use these Gundams to fight wars on Earth, but also in space as well. And it was the coolest stuff I remember seeing as a kid. I loved Gundam, and I still do to this day. And I made sure to get my hands on any game that gave me the coolest feel to what I watched in the anime. And to be honest, none of them gave me that feeling at all. These are some titles that were released over the years, mostly being for PS2, and as you can see here, for its time, these games look relatively decent, I would say, but it always felt kind of slow and clunky and too tactical for me. I wanted to move fast, zip through the air, and zap people with huge Kamehameha beams looking stuff and use swords. I wanted the anime, and then it happened. Dynasty Warriors Gundam Edition. No, I'm joking, I'm playing, but that game did come close to what I want, but it's Dynasty Warriors. You're gonna play it for like 30 minutes to an hour and then shut it off. It's repetitive. But just when I had given up on all hope, it happened. By the graces of the YouTube algorithm gods, a video of a Gundam game showed up on my feed, and it was just one of those random raw footages of someone fighting against another person and just posting it on YouTube, and instantly my jaws dropped. I said, how the F did I not see this game before? Since the game came out in like 2012, and this must have been somewhere around 2018 when I saw the video, and instantly I knew this was the answer to my prayers, and the name of that game was Gundam Extreme Versus Full Boost. Now, the only one that I have played is the Gundam Extreme Versus Full Boost, so we will be going over this game, and it will be the one you're going to be seeing in the backfeed for most of the video. But the other titles, to me at least, just seem like they are just newer versions of the older title, adding new things, but it is essentially the same game, just with, newer features. Gundam Extreme Full Burst is a 2v2 arena fighter that has a unique feel to it that I feel no other game really has, in my opinion. You and your partner armor up into a Gundam of your choice, you tweak the settings of each Gundam to your liking, and then set the match rules accordingly to how you want the match to play out. You pick a map, and you just war it out with your buddies with some Gundams. Now, I know I'm explaining it in layman terms, and I apologize since I do not read Japanese, so more or less I personally just feel it out when I'm playing this and when I'm selecting these options. But generally, you are picking a Gundam with specific stats and abilities that also carry a certain cost to them. And what is the cost, you ask? We're gonna get into that. This number you see right here is going to be the cost, and it is attached to every Gundam. Essentially, the more powerful or cooler the Gundam tends to have a higher cost, and like a mid-tier, lower-end Gundam has a less cost. I personally don't know. Some people may be good with the lower cost ones, but I would say the more cooler ones tend to be the ones with higher costs. And how does this cost affect you, you ask? When playing the game, there is going to be a meter that both teams have, and your goal essentially is to defeat your enemy's Gundam to deduct the points off the meter until the meter hits 0, thus making you the winner. And the cost on the Gundam is what's going to be reduced off your meter. So of course, if you pick a more powerful Gundam, you are also risking a faster loss if you do die too many times. So this is like a double-edged sword mechanic, and I really do like it. I think it's cool, but very quickly I fell in love with the game and the gameplay and the mechanics overall. It is just an amazing game. The game is very fast paced. It's gonna have you boosting and moving around constantly to avoid being hit by hyper beam-esque attacks at any given time, but also timing when to engage with the enemy to let off your attacks. Since combos in this game seem to run on forever, I swear if the CPU gets you like in a few combos, your HP is basically GG's. But you do have your partner that could come in and save you in those situations, which is why I love the 2v2 system. Another cool thing I find about this game is that they have this thing called the burst mechanic. This is like a Super Saiyan mode for the Gundams, and after doing or taking enough damage, you will fill up a gauge where you'll be able to have this extra strength and sometimes utilize a specific skill that is only available in burst mode. And knowing when and where to use this skill is one of the key factors in securing a victory in this game, I notice, at least for me. But I just spam it whenever I want because I just like having fun, and plus I'm up against CPUs. It's not that deep. Since its inception, there has been many titles that have been released, even a new one coming out soon, not in North America obviously, and some of these titles are Wrangle vs. Zaft Gundam vs. Gundam, Extreme vs. Full Boost, Extreme vs. Maxi Boost, Extreme vs. Maxi Boost On, Extreme vs. 2, Extreme versus Cross Boost, and what we'll be releasing in what I think is 2023 is Extreme versus 2 Over Boost. Wow, you gotta love Japan and how they name their stuff. And it's pretty sad with all of these releases, they never once thought about their global audience who love Gundam and support it in many other ways. And technically they have like a pseudo legitimate reason, but we're gonna get into that right now. Now we get to the big question. Shitachi, why have we not seen any of these games released in North America or anywhere else outside of Japan really? And the long and short is, this game is an arcade game. And the very fact that some of you instantly went towards maybe thinking Pac-Man or Ninja Turtles or maybe even that arcade Simpsons game, this is why we have not seen the game overseas. In Japan, the arcade scene is still huge and striving. Aside from the whole Lovid replace the L with the C situation, Japanese people regularly go to arcades to play games, and titles you'd expect to see on recent consoles can be found in most Japanese arcades. And the one game that usually takes up most space in these arcades is the Gundam Extreme Versus series. This game is ginormous in Japan, and they even have a tournament hosted by Bandai every so often, so the people are going to these venues day in and day out practicing to be the very best that no one ever was. And I say that all to say, in North America, the arcade scene is like the antithesis of Japan's, so they probably don't see the value in bringing it overseas to us. What pours more salt in the wound though is that they have released these games on console like Extreme Versus Full Boost on the PS3 and I believe also Maxi Boost on the PS4, but as you guessed, the servers are only in Japan. But if I haven't already mentioned it already, this game is meant to be played online and they only have the servers in Japan, so just once again, we're just out of luck. And I apologize because I got more salt for that wound of yours. Bandai has yet to even make a breath about this title and releasing it in North America or like anywhere else. I have heard that in certain Chinese areas, I think it's Hong Kong and other Asian countries, were able to play it in the past online, but I don't think they have been able to since they closed the servers off for everywhere else except for Japan, at least for the past few years. So what does that mean for us? It means life sucks sometimes and we literally cannot do anything about it. Japanese companies, if you have not already noticed, can be a bit stubborn when it comes to their IP, and they usually focus on their own audience in their own country, which sucks, but can you really blame them? Now, as I mentioned in the intro, the only way I know how to play this game is to emulate it on the PS3 if you're using something like the RPCS3 emulator, and you'd only be able to play the Extreme Verse Full Boost, which would be the only one that released to the PS3 to my knowledge. And remember, in Google you trust, may you find a way to play this wonderful game, my friends, but I won't be going any further on that one. So I wanted to make this video because one, I always wanted to make a video like this, but I never thought I could bring myself to ever do it. So here it is. And if you did watch to the end, I literally love you. Like literally you are an OG. Now I know I did say there is essentially nothing we can do, but I don't mean that fully. One thing that we can try to do is show support to any Gundam product in any other region that they do release to us, and I can't say that this will work, but it is better than nothing. I want to give a special thanks to Action Sports, who was a large YouTube channel that made the video on this recently, and it inspired me to actually make this video, my first gaming documentary type-esque video. So sorry if it sucks, it was my first one. Aside from the random gameplay videos, I heard no one speak about this game at all, probably because they didn't know it existed, and if enough of us speak out and also support Gundam products, we may be able to get Japan to port one of these games to a global server or whichever region you are watching this video in. Go check out Action Sports video on this game if you like to get some feedback from actual people who have played this game, you know, online or in Japan or something. And thank you again for making that video, Action. And thank you everyone else who clicked this video and gave it a watch, especially if you watched towards the end. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel and like the video to show some support, and let's make this topic go viral on Twitter or something. I heard that, you know, things get done or tend to get done when you complain on Twitter. Anyways, I'm off to play some Full Boost. Peace.